Tell me a little bit about your new film, The Watchers.
So it's very exciting. This is my first feature movie. It's a kind of thriller horror set in a forest in Ireland, and it's about this young woman who kind of stumbles across this structure in the middle of the forest and meets these other characters and realizes she's being watched every night by mysterious creatures in the woods.
What was it about that genre that drew you to creating this film?
I think it's such a powerful genre. I think horror is weirdly something that a lot of people are connecting to nowadays, and that's very much been my journey as well. I've always been into watching it. I think it's a great way to sort of talk about emotions we're having, fears we're having, and address some of these like deeper human issues in a very accessible way.
Well, speaking of being accessible, I noticed that you balance the elements of horror really well with like physical violence and tension. Could you talk a little bit more about that, and would it be appropriate for kids?
I think so. I mean, I think it's quite scary, so it kind of depends on I think different parents and what they feel. I think for me, I've never really been interested in that kind of harsh body horror. I think it's easy to make someone feel something by showing a human being hurt in a very intense way, or by showing gore and blood. But it's, for me, much more difficult and a more interesting challenge to kind of draw out suspense and have it be more of a kind of psychological thing. So I try to play with those ideas a bit more and be truthful to sort of what I find scary and how I experience fear.
And there was a real visceral scene where it could have gone in a direction of being gory, but you made some choices that weren't. How was that in making those decisions?
I think it was a little bit of an internal battle of, do audiences need to see something that's incredibly kind of violent and gruesome? Because I think there's a lot of that right now, particularly like the feeling that you need to shock an audience by going so kind of far to the edge, but it's just not me, I suppose. And so when I was kind of listening to myself and thinking what I was excited to direct, and it wasn't that. So I tried to do this more kind of ethereal fear and this kind of play on spirituality and movement and those things that I think I'm more drawn to as an artist.
Well, along those lines, I noticed that you used the yellow bird inside the cage.
Yeah.
Could you talk a little bit about that?
I mean, that was, the bird is an element that's in the book that I thought was so kind of childlike and wonderful. I think like this symbol of having an animal companion is very old school and very fairy tale, and I loved that element of it. And then I think like as soon as we kind of started filming the bird, I quickly came to realize that it had such a character about it and very much represented the main character Mina's psyche. So it was a great way to kind of explain like where she's at in the movie and how she feels about herself.
And how important was it to shoot in Galway?
It was very important. We shot, in Wicklow County and Galway, and I think that was one of the big draws of the book, was this kind of rich Irish landscape and how authentic it felt. So it was very important to me to sort of maintain those little things that the author had brought in, and I felt that could only be done by going there.
Well, thank you very much for speaking with me today.
Thank you.